everyone. Welcome back to another interview. Our ongoing Independent Thinking Children's Book Festival. We're getting towards the home straight now. I've had the pleasure and the privilege of interviewing so many great authors over the last, well, in the week building up to this weekend, and also all day Saturday, and now we're sort of partway through Sunday afternoon. And it's been so inspiring and so insightful and so useful. All the recordings will go on to the Independent Thinking website and also the Sue Atkins Book Club website. All of these authors have come to us via our partnership with Sue Atkins and her book club, and just between Sue and Independent Thinking, giving these authors a platform for their selves, for their stories, for their personal stories, and everybody's got one, as well as for the books that they've written, and everybody's purely focused on doing the best for children, bringing the best out of children, making a difference for children, but coming at things in so many different ways. And this book is no exception. It's a lovely book. Your Happy Child, 10 Proven Steps to Raising a Happy Child. A lot of these books are aimed at parents, but with so much that's useful and relevant for teachers as well, especially teachers of parents too. So I'm delighted to be joined by this lovely Happy Looking Books author, Usha Chudasama. So Usha, just tell us, welcome. Tell us a little bit more about you, about what you do, how come you came to be writing this book, and a little bit more about the book.
Yeah, so I'm a child and adult psychotherapist and parenting coach, and the book Your Happy Child came about back when I was a teacher, actually. So I was a teacher for 16 years and working in primary schools, and very, very passionate about specifically working with children that were finding mainstream school difficult. Because in our school where I worked, they started a nurture room in an attempt to help those children that couldn't manage the day-to-day activities. Now, at the same time, I had just done a 10-week counselling course for personal reasons, just for my own personal development, really. And they said, "Oh, Usha, can you be part of that nurture room, be part of the working party?" I said, "Yeah, I'd love to." And so my job was to go into classrooms at lunchtimes and pick up on any children that had behavior problems or had found playtime difficult or lunchtime difficult, and absolutely loved working with them. And so when the nurture room started, I was asked to be one of the people who worked with these particular children. And so at the same time, I was doing some self-help work, and I thought, you know what, this is helping me. So I'm going to adapt what I'm learning and work, do some work with the children. All of it was about helping them to value themselves, slow everything down, get back to like the basics, breathing, and all of that helped to get them to understand their emotions, their feelings, get them to take pride in themselves and their work, build their self-esteem. All of that helped to then get them back into class and engage and read. And these are kind of the feedback I was getting back from the teachers. They're reading better, they're engaging more in class, they're putting their hand up, and that was a real boost for me. And I thought, I don't really know the science behind what I was doing, but it was working. But
what age were these children?
So primary school, so all ages between 5 and 11.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Some nursery children were having problems as well, so that's even younger. But it was not until I went out one day to the playground and lining the kids up, getting the parents to take their children home. And one parent stayed behind, and she said, and I was a bit worried. I'm thinking, well, what does she want? What have I done? But she actually came back and gave me a little gold pendant, Ian. And she said, I want to give you this gift because you've helped my child. And he comes home now and he teaches all of us exactly the kinds of things that you've been teaching him, and it's impacted the whole family. So we're all communicating more effectively. We're all a lot calmer. We meditate. we do the positive activities that you say, you know, gratitude and you know, building a positive mental attitude, because this little boy had come into the country as you know, as an immigrant. They'd come in, they didn't have English as a first language, and so some of the subtle, nuanced rules that we have, you know, the unspoken rules that we have, he just wasn't getting it. And so having him in the nurture room and nurturing him helped to completely turn his behavior around. And it's when that mum said to me, you know, you've helped my whole family, I just thought, do you know what, a penny dropped, and I thought, I was that parent, I was you. You know, some years back, and I said to myself, I'm going to write a book. However, the book didn't come about until about 10 years later, to be honest, because in that 10 years, I then worked with the behavior consultants, the educational psychologists, and ran some parenting programs with them. I also worked with the children. So these were children who were finding mainstream really, really difficult. And obviously, some of the parents needed the parenting support. So I was doing that work. And then after that, I became a behavior consultant, which meant that I went into mainstream schools and worked specifically with those children, but helping Senkos with, you know, special needs coordinators with policies and making sure that you know, the children were getting what they should be getting, but also doing trainings. So I was running trainings in school, working with the parents there, and it was a job I absolutely loved. And then the only thing is that the kind of person I am, I like to get to the root cause of things, and I felt like that was just sticking a plaster. I was giving them coping strategies, but not actually dealing with the root cause of the issues. And that's when I started to train as a psychotherapist. And later, after doing the training, that's when I started writing the book. So from the seed of the idea to it actually coming out, I think it was timely, because I included in the book all the learning that I have, you know, basically the scientific understanding of parenting linked with practical activities that parents can actually do together.
Yeah, and that comes through in the book. It's incredibly practical, but it is backed up with, you clearly read widely. I mean, there are so many quotes and sources and resources within the book as well. So it's sort of backed up by the science, but it's an accessible book. It's incredibly accessible.
Exactly. It's very jargon free, and I made it jargon free because I remember being a parent and not really understanding the language for me to actually access the practicalities of the activities. So I did make it very jargon free. And it's got a mix of the science, the positive psychology and the neuroscience and everything else, but it's also got the holistic practice. It's like steeped in, and the foundation is actually the holistic practices.
You draw from different cultures, different aspects of understanding humanity. As well. It's a wide ranging, or it draws from many wells, shall we say. I just want to ask you something. What you talked about your work with parents and children around behaviour, and certainly in England, and I've picked this up on a few other of the conversations we've had in the last few days, this idea that behaviour is the naughty child, the naughty boy, the naughty girl. They're just troublesome. They need to be sorted. They need to learn how to control themselves.
Yeah.
And there are other ways of looking at it, which is, it's the unmet need. It's some sort of communication that, yes, they need boundaries and need to know how to behave, but we need to go beyond just telling them off. The work you did with parents, how important is it when we're looking at the behaviour of a child, especially I'm thinking primary schools, to enlist the parents as part of that process of helping the children behave? And how difficult is it for the parents to take on board that maybe things they're doing are influencing children's behaviour at school?
It's a very, very good question. I think that just to back it up a little bit, when I did what I've got in the book, right, are workshops that I ran for the children, and I did it in different ways. So I did it with the children on their own, I did it with teachers, I did it with parents, but the ones that worked best was the ones with parents and children together, right, which is where you're coming from. So enlisting the parents into the work means that they're actually also taking responsibility. And what parents don't always realize is that children model us. They do what we do, not what we not what we necessarily say. And so giving parents the awareness that actually you need to also notice what you're doing yourself, how you're saying things, how you are thinking about your child, makes a huge impact on their potential. So if you think your child is not going to manage something, well, guess what? They don't, because you believe it. And even though you might not say it, but it comes out in your body language, and children pick it up. They pick it up. However, the other side is also true, that if you think that your child is wonderful, right, and you build their self-esteem, and you say to them that you can do this, and you build their courage and confidence, and encourage them, they excel your expectations, actually. So both is true, but I think it's really important to enlist the parents and help them with their mindset.
And without blame, without saying they're doing anything wrong, without pointing fingers, and because that's, I think, you've got to get that as a parent. You talk about being a parent coach, and I said the same thing to Sue yesterday. How do you coach parents who wants to be told they're doing something wrong? You know.
Yes, yeah. Actually, nobody's at fault. Because you can only parent the way that you were parented, or you may have read in books, or you've seen. So it's nobody's fault, but it is about having that open mindset to say, okay, actually in the 50s and even earlier than that, parenting was very different. It was enough to just feed your children and clothe them and give them a roof and education, but nobody knew. We know now with neuroscience, but nobody knew that actually you've got to help them with their emotional regulation. You've got to help them with their emotions, thinking, feeling, all of those things, speaking to them in a positive way. All of those things are very important. And it really does start with the parent, helping them to manage their state, understand. Well, a lot of it's not just managing their state. A lot of the times when I'm doing parent coaching, I'm helping them to see where their ideas and ideals and principles come from, and are they working today? Are they helping you? Are they helping your family? And if they are, then great, carry on doing them. If they're not, then okay, let's have a look at what else we can do differently. And sometimes it is about educating the parents. It's about educating the parents to say, let's update some of your ideas. Yes, because sometimes, when I first started, I had no clue about the neuroscience that we know now, the positive psychology, and the importance of thinking about the processes that go on underneath. I didn't know anything about that.
And you mentioned state, and you mentioned sort of mindset. On page 35, you talk about at the beginning 7 principles that sort of underlie this whole idea about having the happy child. So just give us an example of some of these principles. Where do we start?
Yeah, okay, so first of all, start with the mindset that your child is not there to wind you up. Their behavior is not there to wind you up. They come with unlimited potential. All right, they come, and more than anything, your child needs to feel loved. So it's about making the parent aware that you need to connect with your child. It's really important to have that connection. By connection, I mean that just acknowledging. So if they're having some issues, or they come to you telling you, oh, I can't sleep, mummy, or whatever. It's acknowledging that feeling first. So, oh, I understand. I hear what you're saying. It must be really difficult for you. Okay, let's see what we can do. So it's connect first, because I think what some parents tend to do is they go straight for the doing, let's fix it, let's sort it out. But what children need is for you to connect with them first. And that's the first thing. And remember that your child has a lot of potential. The second thing is that your child's negative behavior is their way of communicating to you that connection somewhere has been broken, or they need something else. So when a child is arguing, fighting, being angry, and or over the top sad, they are showing you through their behavior that they need you to connect with them at some level.
Yeah, and you talk about behaviour, and there's a lovely section where I paid for it, 12 tools to deal with inappropriate behaviour, things like managing your state, and and this is useful for teachers. Offer the illusion of choice. I love that one. You can come and have your dinner now, or lose 5 minutes of your computer time. You've constantly, and so many of the books have had a similar theme. You're giving responsibility and agency to the child, not in a you can do what you like way, but within a structure. But the children always have this sense of I'm this internal locus of control, which we know is important for feeling happy, feeling motivated, having good self-esteem, having good mental health as well. And I love so many little tips like that. This time is going too quickly. We've only got 3 minutes left. Can you imagine? I know. You're going to give us a little bit, because we talked about positive mental attitude and how important that is, and how there are so many simple little ways that we can model that ourselves as parents and as teachers, and encourage our children to have that PMA as well. So I think you were going to sort of share a little bit about that from your book.
Yeah, I'll just read a little tiny bit because we're running out of time. But so I've said that the steps in this book use concepts of positive psychology, which is based on happiness and well-being. It encourages the use of imagination to unleash creativity and wisdom, acknowledging and enhancing personal strengths, and focusing on characteristics of a good person. And it's a really good life skill to have. That little paragraph has got so much in there, and the whole book kind of breaks it down into really easy steps. So yeah, the book is filled with lots of practical scripted activities that parents can do, so that they're not stuck for what to say to the children when something happens, or how to start a session.
You said it. It's very practical. It's really useful, and it's simple to access. It's like a lot of the books we've discussed, but underneath it, built into every word, every paragraph, is so much research. And so, I mean, your personal story of your sort of relentless, I'm into self-development, I did this course, I did that course, I wanted to learn that, and all of that sort of stuff then bubbles to the surface in the books. In a very deceptive way, because the books are so straightforward to access. You talk about happiness being a choice, and I love that concept, because we tend to think we're either happy or sad, it's nothing to do with us, we're just the victims of it. But you talk about, so have you just in 1 minute, why and how is happiness a choice?
Because our brain is actually wired to keep us safe. So it keeps us safe by using the fear, fight and flight. Yeah. And happiness is a choice. Just like we go to the gym and build our muscles, we've got to build our brain muscles as well. So it's a choice, because you have to make yourself do these activities. But they're all really fun activities anyway. So yeah, so that's why it's a choice, because we make the choice to actually actively do something about our happiness and our joy in our life. And
that makes sense. And the more we do it, they become habits. So we just become habitual. We don't have to think about it. It's not just every day we have to consciously choose these things. We just change these patterns of behavior, rewire the templates in our brain, and they just become, this is who we are and how we are and how we think.
Yeah, they become unconscious competence. So we don't have to think about it. We just do it without thinking. Definitely.
I like that. Yeah. I like that. I also like, and there's a quote right at the very beginning which resonates. We talked about, we touched on the subject yesterday in one of the conversations about epigenetics, and the things we do now, and the things we eat, and the things that our body and our brains fall victim to, for example, carry on into the generations. And you start with this quote: to save a child, you need to save 2 generations before that child.
Absolutely. And there is so much information about intergenerational stuff. Let's just say.
Let's call it that in a minute.
No, let's just say stuff, because we don't want to go into too much right now. But our ancestors, so like people who have suffered slavery or the Holocaust or, big traumas, their ancestors, even 4 generations down, are feeling some of that. So the work that goes on in this book, I mean, it seems like a very easy, practical book, but actually we're dealing with some of those intergenerational things, which I don't mention in the book because it makes it heavy, but that's actually what we're doing.
It's all in there. Yeah, no, that's incredibly powerful. And I think half of your family are online, sort of cheering you on in the chat there.
There's 2 people who are family, but the rest are actually my really great tribe that I belong to.
We all in the tribe. They're cheering you on there. This has been the time has gone so quickly, which is a good sign. I do recommend the book. It is really a simple, powerful book, but full of your expertise and your research, and your brain is all in there. It's an amazing book. We've done a deal, I think, with Roving Bookshops, so the book's available via them. The web's there. They've done this festival web store, if you like. But also, how can people, Usha, how can people find you? How can they track you down? You're on social media, you've got your own website. What have you got?
Yeah, I have. So if the website is parentyourhappychild.com, and you can use the same, Parent Your Happy Child on Instagram as well as Facebook, and you'll find me. If you just put my name on Google, you'll find me doing lots of other things too. So yeah, thank you.
It's been lovely to talk to you. Thank you for that. Keep doing what you're doing. We need happy children. We need happy everybody, especially at the moment.
Exactly, the pandemic. We didn't even talk about that, but yeah.
Well, it's implicit.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you very much, Usha. All right, I'll see you again. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Bye, everyone who joined me today.